Hey, Courtney, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, can you see my screen? All right, good deal.
I can.
All right, welcome everyone to the January Planning Commission meeting. I've got 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get this meeting started. Call to order. Let's go ahead and we'll do an opening prayer by Commissioner Matt Mowdy, and then we'll follow by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I emailed her. We'll see what she says.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Yes. I am redeemed from last meeting. All right. Laura, would you go ahead and do roll call?
Mowdy. Ward.
Here.
Byrd. Here. Prater.
Here.
Knack.
Here.
Lowe.
Here. All right, we got a quorum. Just go ahead and get our acceptance of the December Planning Commission meeting minutes. You've got those packets. If you would, give me any revisions or updates or a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve. Motion to approve from Commissioner Prater. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Knack. Roll call vote, please.
Mowdy.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Knack.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Prater.
Yes. All right, thank you. Those minutes are approved. Let's go ahead and open up our first item of business. It is 7:02, and I will open up the public hearing. And the first item on the agenda, Laura.
Rezone parts of the northeast border, section 13, T4 north, R10 west, north 3, R1 to R4M, Lennox Engineering.
All right, thank you, Laura. We'll go ahead and ask Courtney to go ahead and give us a staff overview.
Yeah. So this project is located on the north side of North Street. It's just adjacent to the Stonebridge Senior Living Center, if you know where that is. They are currently zoned for R1 and are requesting an R4M, medium density multifamily residential. They have road frontage on North Street, which is a local street, and they have this, the future land use classifies this as apartment residential. So that would fit in close to what the applicant is requesting. There's no FEMA floodplain, but what you have on the screen right there is the estimated BFE data, which shows there is significant flooding on this site. And as your floodplain administrator pointed out, that this is a flood basin basically for several other properties in the area. So when we do move forward, if this project gets rezoned, it will need to take into account that there is some significant flooding that may occur on site. The total site is 3.67 acres. And the property adjacent to it is zoned for R1 and R2. And again, there's some RM just to the south. And then if you can see on the future land use map, everything around it is located or is zoned for the apartment residential or the medium density residential. So it is in line with what is shown on the future land use map. When you're looking at this, R1 is your most restrictive residential district, and they are asking for a much higher residential R4M, which is the medium density. But again, surrounding sites, even that R1 to the east, that's zoned R1, is used for that senior living complex and is more of an apartment type situation. So it would be more in line than the current R1 is with what's shown on the future land use and what's surrounding. And again, the technical issues would be reviewed if they do submit a project, if this is rezoned. There are a few there's one comment here from Fire that they say, understanding this is a rezone only, the concept plan added to the revision packet will not meet fire code for future development as submitted. So they submitted a concept plan, and the fire marshal just wants to remind everybody that that's just a concept plan. So they'll need to provide a little more data. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Commissioners have any questions for Courtney? All right, the applicant, Mr. Tim Lennon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What Courtney was alluding to as far as the concept plan, we did provide one. I don't know if you have it right up on the screen or not, but if not, there we go. When we were doing this, I failed to realize that duplexes are actually handled the same as residential homes. So you can only have 30 front doors before you have to have a second way in and out. So I discussed this with the owner, and we have, I believe, 30 to 33. So what we're looking at doing is that first building that is right off of North Street, we're going to reconfigure that and bring a looped road and have two ways in and out. And of course, that will be addressed at the site plan. But just want to let you know, we are aware that it's a comment, and we will address it at the time it needs to be addressed.
Okay, is that it? All right, since this is public hearing, I want to open it up to anyone else who is speaking for this item. If not, anyone here to speak against this? All right, seeing none. Commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Seems to comply looking at land use with the surrounding areas. Very similar use. Looks to be good to me, but you guys have any questions? I entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion from Commissioner Mowdy to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Byrd. A roll call vote, please.
Connect.
Yep.
Bird.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Love.
Yes.
Prater.
Yes.
Mowdy.
Yes.
All right, that rezone is approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Nora.
Special use wireless communication facilities, 1704 South Pine Street, Ferris Consulting.
All right, Courtney.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
muted myself. Yeah, sorry about that. This is located at 1704 South Pine Street, 0.35 acre area. They are asking to place a wireless tower to improve their coverage in the city of Cabot. It's a monopole tower. There's utility cabinets and associated security fencing and landscaping with this. They have gone through the packet and provided all of the information that would be required for a wireless tower. They have all their plans in place and have shown their coverage maps. There was some discussion on this about whether they could place this on the Cabot Waterworks water tower and co-locate, as co-location is always preferred. The applicant has provided information about why they don't feel that co-location is a good fit for them, and that was in their packet. And so one of the things they provided is some coverage maps where they show what kind of coverage they can get if they can place their tower at their proposed location, and what kind of coverage they could get if they did co-locate with Cabot on the water tower. I will leave that up to Planning Commission's evaluation on whether they feel like that is an adequate reason not to co-locate, as co-location is always preferred. So it's just one of the considerations. Most of the other comments were addressed that we had. Again, I think the biggest one is just whether or not Planning Commission feels like they really want to push for the co-location on the water tower versus allowing the cell tower to go in on the site that Verizon or AT&T is covering for this site. So let me know if you have any questions on that one.
Commissioners have any questions for Courtney? All right, applicant here. Would state your name and who you're with.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, my name is Greg Ferris. Consulting, and I'm also working with SCI Wireless. SCI Wireless was contacted by structure to handle this case for them. Tillman has a contract with AT&T to locate antennas on this tower. Linda Fallbell from AT&T is here. If you have any specific questions for AT&T, glad to answer. Take you through a little bit of our process. The AT&T RF engineering will present a area where a tower is needed. Site acquisition crew will then evaluate the area and see what, if any, large structures are in the area that they can co-locate on. The search range for this particular site was a quarter-mile, and there wasn't anything within a half a mile of the proposed area. Therefore, they believe a new tower was required. When they figure that a new tower is required, there are some of the things they like to look at. One is, can they find an area where it's a little more heavily wooded that shields the tower a little bit from the view. They also like to set it back off the street, and if there's a possibility of having buildings screen the compound and area from the traffic patterns from the roadways. That's also one of the considerations the site acquisition folks look at. This happens to be a very good site for a communication tower because it is behind a couple buildings in an area where there are significant trees. There's not any residential adjacent that has houses built on it, except for the owner himself. There are significant commercial areas around it. It seemed to be a good fit, so they moved forward with that. As we evaluated this site, I submitted the application, and we received comments back from your city attorney as well as the water department. So I dug further in and had the RF engineering for AT&T do a specific evaluation of the water tower. Sometimes these plots are a little hard to read. I'll be glad to go through them specifically, but one of the things that's very clear, the area that AT&T is trying to cover is not covered by the water tower. It's very clear from the plots if you understand it. And I'll be glad, as I said, to explain those if we need to. The water tower will be used. There's no question. And I've been doing this for 20 some years. And what happens is that they have an area where they have specific coverage needs. This happens to be a coverage site. There are then what they consider capacity sites. As a tower is constructed, they need to offload some of that capacity as there's more and more users. The water tower will be an excellent capacity site because it's located immediately between this site and another site that AT&T is on. If you look at the coverage maps, you'll see that AT&T is on a tower that is just slightly south of the existing water tower. And basically what the water tower does is it just creates redundant coverage for that tower in a lot of area without providing the area that they're trying to really focus on in coverage. So the water tower did not meet the criteria that the RF engineers used to evaluate that. I'm not an RF engineer. I've done this long enough to understand what it says and be glad to explain some of that. But I think he also wrote a letter that shows that this just doesn't fit with their needs at this time. That doesn't mean that in the future that the water tower, I almost guarantee you the water tower will be by one of the carriers in the future. But at this time for AT&T, it does not meet their radio frequency requirements. Therefore, we would not consider this a viable alternative. We think that because of the location, because of the zoning is commercial, because of the fact that it's screened on three sides by trees and another side by buildings, because it's set off the roadway, we have good access from the existing access point. We think all of those things then meet criteria that Cabot has for a communication tower, and that we believe that this then meets the criteria that you have laid out in your zoning. Sorry for the long explanation, but I felt like it was necessary. And if I need to describe the coverage plots, feel free to pull them up and I'll try to. Glad to answer your questions as soon as you
Sure. Thank you, Greg. Commissioners have any questions for Greg?
I mean, I couldn't really see on the map there, but that circle was a mile, 1 mile?
Yes, sir. That circle's a mile, and there are no towers within a mile, but if you go to the south of it, just slightly, the tower that's south AT&T is on that tower. They're also on the other tower. Actually, they're on all three of the towers shown on that map. So as you see how that converges towards the middle, that's the area that they don't have the coverage that they need. That's why they're looking at the towers there.
How many towers do we have in that city?
Actually, in that mile, there's none. Those three are the only ones that showed up on the FCC website of towers that are in your immediate area. I think one of them may actually be outside of Cabot. One of them is in. The other one, I couldn't quite tell. It was pretty close. So it didn't look like you have a great number of towers in Cabot. You have that nice water tower. I'm not going to deny the fact that that's going to be a good site someday. It just doesn't work for us today.
Greg, is there an ability to do multiple carriers on these towers, or is it just one dedicated
No,
carrier on each
this
one?
tower is constructed for a minimum of 3. If you look at the last page of the drawings, it'll show you the tower, and there actually can be 3 plus maybe a 4th, depending on how many antennas and those that are on there. But no, the nice thing about working with a company like Tillman is they are actually in the vertical real estate business. When I started in this business 20 years ago, I would work directly for AT&T or directly for T-Mobile. They would build their own towers, and then they really didn't like anybody else messing with them. So you had a lot of new codes that came out that said you got to co-locate. And what's happened today is that AT&T no longer builds towers. They go to a vertical real estate company like Tillman and say, build us a tower. And you can see here that this is designed and intended for at least 2 other carriers.
So this is just my curiosity. Have you gone into cities where you've had to make your towers look like a tree, like a redwood tree, or, and normally those ordinances are in place, you know?
Yes, we can do that. We can do that here. Usually, if this site was maybe 200 yards further to the west, we might think more of a tree. When you have an open area, sometimes a tree really looks more out of place than actually a monopole. Monopoles, people have gotten kind of used to them, and they see them, and they just. I was at a hearing with a happened to know the lady that was on the board, and this was several years ago. And she said, "Well, what do these look like?" We all know what they look like now, but at the time she didn't. I said, "Well, I know where you live. There's a tower," and I explained. I said, "Right there. You drive by it every day." I never noticed that. And I think what's happened is it's kind of like the telephone poles. We drive by them, we don't pay attention to them anymore. And it's kind of what happens with communication towers. If they're in a good spot, it's off the road. If you're right up against the road, yeah, you see them. But I think in this case, we can do that. We don't love doing that because then you do have a little bit of issues with the RF frequencies, and it's kind of a long explanation that I'm not probably qualified to do, but we can do those if that's what would be required.
Yeah, I don't think there's any ordinances that currently have that. It's good preferences.
You know, if I recall, 5 or 10 years ago, we approved one across from where TSC is now. And what you're saying is, I don't know if they ever built it. I've never noticed it. It was there. We approved one behind Butler's office. In that little storage area. I don't know if it's ever there or not. It's within a mile of what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that area, so I couldn't tell you. I know I pulled down all the towers that have been built. Actually, there was one tower that had been licensed, but was never constructed or was deactivated. And I didn't include that because it wasn't there. Now, I don't know if that was it or not, but I did pull the SEC has a list of every tower that's permitted. That's what that map was.
Any other questions for Greg?
Only going back to my ignorance, probably, so.
Believe me, you're not ignorant.
It's a circle of a mile, so eventually you have to have them towers every mile.
Well, when I first started, we would put towers every 2 miles, and then they got every mile. And so they would give us a search ring that was a mile, and they give us a search ring that's a half a mile. We're now down to search rings that are a 1/4 mile, and that's because of the 5G technology. 5G technology, because it is lower power but higher frequency, they are requiring them to be a little bit closer than they used I'm doing some down in Florida right now, for example. And that search ring was 500 feet was the search rings that they gave us, because that was the area that the Army engineers had determined. So yes, you will have towers every half mile. Your city, you're fortunate, because this tower will now be a half mile from basically the other towers, which you can then direct, and Phil will be very happy for you to direct anyone. And companies, first thing they do is look for a tower, because it's just so much easier to go through this process. So that they will, and since they're not building their own towers anymore, they'll say, oh, someone has a tower, therefore we're going to build a tower. And then you have further south the water tower. So Cabot is in a kind of a fortunate situation, because you kind of have a triangle of towers. Look at the map that I designed. And then you have that water tower, and then you'll have this tower, and that creates a nice area. I'm not going to tell you that somebody's not going to come in here and need another tower, because eventually they will, but it'll be shorter. What happens is they just keep coming down as they, when I started in this, we never did a tower under 200 feet. And they were 175. This one, I believe, 149 with the lightning rod. And they just continue to come down. One of the reasons we do like 149 years, you'll see you're going to be at 120 on the lowest. If you build a 120-foot tower, then you're going to be down to 80, and you know nobody's going to want to be on there. Then you will have to build a tower. So by making it just another 10 or 20 feet taller, it created the depth of that you see in your plots that expand that area of coverage, but it also allows better co-location opportunities because of the 10-foot spacing that is required for the I don't know if that answered your question. If it didn't,
A bunch of towers.
All right, thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else here to speak for this item? Anybody here to speak against this? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing, 7:22. Commissioners, well, I guess let me ask, Ben, is there anything from a legal city attorney standpoint you want to add to the conversation?
No, I raised that issue because it did need to be on record. They had considered the water tower, and they have done so, so they are basically.
Thanks, Ben. Commissioners, any questions or discussion? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion from Commissioner Lowe and a second from Commissioner Mounty. Roll call vote, please.
Bird. Yes. Prater.
Yes.
Mounty.
Yes.
Knapp.
yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
All right, that special use permit is approved.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, staff. Your staff is really lucky to have it. They're very confident. I've worked in a lot of cities. She does a great job.
Great, thanks, Greg. Yeah, very proud of Laura and our staff. Kim. All right, let's move on to the new business in the Planning Commission section of our agenda. And the first item, I'm going to actually ask for approval to suspend the rules and switch item B and A. Just if I can get a motion to approve. Motion from Chuck Prater, second. Second from Commissioner Byrd. Vote please.
Mounty. Ward.
Yes.
Bird. Yes. Prater.
Yes.
Knapp.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. Just wanted to keep out of trouble. So Laura, if you would read off the first one, which was item B, which will be item A now.
Replat, lot 13R, Greystone Estates, Lemons Engineering.
All right, Courtney.
Yes, so we've switched to Greystone replat lot 13 and 14,
Yes,
which is
ma'am.
a lot combination to become lot 13R. So this is located at the northeast intersection between Wellington Place and Gray Ridge Drive and the Greystone Estates subdivision. It doesn't really show up on the map yet because it's a very new subdivision, but I've provided the best location that I could on the map. This is owned by Ashley and Brad Richardson, and Lemons is the consultant for it. Again, we consist of 2 lots, lot 13 and 14, to replat into one lot 13R lot that will be approximately 0.66 acres in size. And they have met everything except for all of their conditions that we had for them at tech review have been met, except for adding a source of title, and the applicant responded that it will be forthcoming upon receipt from the title company. So all they're really wanting to do is combine 2 lots into one.
Thanks, Courtney. Commissioners have any questions? You have anything to add, Tim?
One thing I was gonna add was, yes, we are trying to get that source of title and add on. I do know that lots 13 and 14 have been closed on the first of the course, and so as soon as I get that information.
Thanks. Commissioners. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve from Commissioner Mounty. Second, from Commissioner Prater. Roll call vote, please.
Bird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Mounty.
Yes.
All right, that replat is approved. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next item, which was item A.
Replat lots A, B, and C, Home Depot subdivision, Vaughn Consulting Engineers.
Courtney?
Yeah, so this is the same property that we saw just recently for the hotel proposal. So what they're wanting to do is come and divide this property now into 3 lots instead of just the 1 lot. So the total acreage is 6.48 acres. And that's lot 2R of the Home Depot subdivision. And they want to split it into 3 lots. Lot A, which will be the hotel lot, will have 2.61 acres. Lot B will have 2.94 acres, and Lot C, that is fronting off of Going Drive, is proposed to have 0.93 acres. We know that this site has floodplain, and the applicant is showing that on their plans. They have provided detailed information to make sure planning staff had some concerns to make sure that the hotel property would still meet all of their requirements, and they have provided all of that information. So the hotel site plan that was approved will fit onto Lot A, meet their setbacks, and meet their coverage requirements. So it is okay to split the lot as they've shown in this Lot A, B, and C scenario. Most of their conditions that we had for them at tech review have been addressed, at least partially. There were a few left over that are listed on your deficiencies list. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Any questions from the commissioners? If not, I entertain a motion to approve with the contingencies of getting the items addressed on staff comments.
Motion to approve with contingencies.
Got a motion to approve, Commissioner Lowe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner, was that Connect? Roll call vote, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Mounty,
Yes.
Knapp,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Prater.
Yes.
All right, that replat is approved. Thank you. Let's go on to item C. Laura?
Preliminary plat, the vineyards at Cabot, Crafton Toll.
Courtney?
Yeah, this is located on Cut Hill Road between State Highway 367 and South First Street. The request is to take an undeveloped lot that's approximately 7.95 acres in size and divide it into 2 lots. Lot 1 would be 4.8 acres and lot 2 would be 3.15 acres. Both the current zoning and future land use plan designate this for high density multifamily development. And like for this preliminary plat, it is just to split it into 2 lots so that they actually will propose to develop this into a multifamily development, but in 2 phases, which is why they're requesting the lot split. All of the tech review comments were received, and there are a few that were partially not responded to, but most of their contingencies have been resolved at this time. So again, just a lot split into 2 different lots.
Thanks, Courtney. Commissioners have any questions for Courtney? Are you the applicant? Is there anything you want to add to the discussion?
No, I appreciate city staff. I'm Travis Tolley with Crafton Toll, and I appreciate city staff helping us get through this application.
All right, thank you. Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Chad, how many, in that first lot approval, how many, doors are there? That can block the site plan?
Yeah, they'll come in site plan. Yeah, this is just a preliminary plat boundaries.
They want to get an issue that we did with on South Campus.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the site plan next. So comments, questions? Entertain a motion to approve the preliminary plat. Get a motion from Commissioner Prater. Second from Commissioner Lowe. Roll call vote, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Bird, yes. Tonight,
Yes.
All right. Preliminary plat is approved. Let's move on to the site plan. Courtney?
Yes, so this is the site plan that's associated with the preliminary plat that was just approved. What they're requesting at this junction is to develop Lot 1 as Phase 1 of the vineyards at Cabot. So Phase 1 will be 4.8 acres. It is zoned appropriately. It's zoned R4H, so the use that they're proposing is within by right, by zoning. The project includes three-story apartment buildings, a clubhouse, a pool, and associated parking and detention. The detention is located on Lot 2, and so that was one of the comments that staff and engineering had, is that the detention needed to have some sort of detention easement, or they needed to move it onto Lot 1 and adjust that. But other than that, most of the contingencies were updated and provided adequate responses to. It's just the storm drain analysis that they had some comments remaining, and I don't know if the city engineer is available to discuss their thoughts on that detention pond that's located on Phase 2.
Yeah, he's right here. Brian? You have comments on the detention drainage? You come up to the mic so they can hear you in Zoom land.
Yeah, we're good with it as it is, after going through the report.
The proper drainage calculations, detention. So to help answer this, the reason that it's on the next, well, the issue with the detention pond being on the other lot is what, it needs to be replatted as a separate.
Well, I think some of the concern there was making sure that we had drainage, that the Cabots took care of both lots.
Okay.
And they actually split it up. There's retaining, it drains off to the southwest. The drainage report does break that into the drainage that comes off of the site and then what they're detaining. And the report clarified that they aren't releasing pre-development flows from the basin. They have throttled that down so that what's exiting on the west side plus what's in the detention basin is actually less than what the existing detention is now. So it's a good report.
Okay.
We should have it at the time of it.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Brian.
The only other major concern was that the offsite easements for utilities have not been secured at this time. So generally, before you approve a site plan, you would have offsite utility easements to bring the necessary utilities to the plan, but the applicant is requesting that the Planning Commission going ahead and approve site plan without those easements in place. They are suggesting that you withhold building permits until all offsite easements are secured for those utilities. That that is up to the planning commission if they want to allow that to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Courtney.
I have a question on the detention. It shows that the detention's in phase 2. So that's not gonna be built until phase 2. So what you're saying is there's not any issues in phase 1?
I don't mind, if you're okay with me answering, I don't mind the answer. The detention pond would be built with phase 1, but it would serve both phase 1 and 2.
Okay.
But it is located on the lot for phase 2.
Gotcha. Staff will require them to do the detention in phase 1. Even though it is shown on phase 2 or lot 2, they did, on the plat, they did put a, easement for that detention pond so that they can actually install the drainage or the detention pond. So staff will require them to build the detention pond in phase 1.
Regarding the offsite water easement, if I may, I spoke with the owner today. They said that the adjacent property owner has agreed in principle to provide easement. So now it's more of a finish the paperwork and get that. So.
If the planning commission is okay, the staff is okay with holding the, not releasing the building permit until the easement, signed easements, recorded easements are in hand.
What about landscape plan?
It does meet the landscape requirements. They do a very good job actually. So, landscape throughout the site.
Are there going to be required any type of fencing or screening adjacent to adjacent properties?
I don't believe so because they are butting up against the same zoning as well as commercial.
If you look at their zoning, there's R4H adjacent as well as commercial and industrial. So none of the uses are lesser than, so we would not require screening.
Okay, thank you.
So fire department, okay, 72 units basically on drive, and they're okay, phase 2 never takes place.
Yeah, Bobby's on the Zoom call. Bobby, can you respond to that question from Commissioner Connect about the 2 ways out?
Okay, Chad, the requirements for the second way out in a multifamily, since they are going to be sprinkled, that allows them to have 200 units to start with. So I don't believe, I can't see that small picture, but I don't believe there's 200 units in phase 1. So they should be good as they are. And even with phase 2 being added, they will have the second way, and they still with phase 2 won't meet the requirement, but it's there.
Phase 1 only has 72 units, so they should be fine.
Yes, that's correct.
Bobby, while we got you, everything look okay to you in terms of fire hydrant locations, or are we at that level of detail on this?
Yeah, level of detail is really good on this. It meets everything that I need.
Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners have any other questions or comments? If not, I didn't.
They are doing curb.
Yeah, the
Yes.
half-street improvements are required, yeah, with sidewalks. If not any other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve with the contingency of maintaining or getting the off-street easement secured. And also other staff comments.
Make a motion to approve with contingencies and staff comments.
Okay.
Second.
A motion from Commissioner Byrd and a second from Commissioner Prater. Roll call vote, please.
Lowe,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Moudy,
Yes.
Connect,
Yes.
Ward.
All right, that site plan is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we're to community input. Does anybody have anything? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye. All right, see you guys next month. Thank you.
Night.
Good night. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
You almost, I mean, that was.
Right, it's, you know, no.